Welcome to the Riviera Woman Chatroom, coming from Seborga, one of the smallest principalities in the world. Today we're talking about equality. Joining me are Julia Moore, Wendy York and local resident Mark Desani, and he's our first male panellist on the Riviera Woman Chatroom. A few weeks ago, Seborga crowned a new prince. Over in Monaco, we've also got a prince. Now, Mark, do you think this is a job that a woman could do?
Absolutely, and in most cases could probably do it better. Our new prince, Marcello, has a wife called Nina, and in many ways I think Nina is probably...
Is she the Principessa then?
She's a Principessa indeed, and in many ways I think she could equally be as good, if not a better, princess.
In what way though? What way, Mark?
She's much more socially engaged than Marcello. She seems a lot easier with people, and she's already got very involved with local charities, and in that way I think she's already been quite impressive.
That's something that a woman can contribute to that sort of scene, really. But Julia, women have always been paid less. Why do you think that is?
The latest statistics from certainly UK working commissions, we still have 20% pay gap difference between male and female workers. Nearly 40 years of pay equality has only just started to scratch the surface as to why that pay gap still exists, and until organisations and large corporations are held to account for things like their employment impact assessments, really give us a true understanding of equal value.
Well, Wendy, if you were going for a job and there's a male and a female going for the same job, do you think you should be paid the same?
Absolutely. Well, there's only one gender-specific role in the world.
Okay.
And it's a job only a woman can do.
And what's that?
Sorry, guys. The role of a wet nurse. Everything else can, perhaps isn't, but can be done. My background was education, and yes, for sure, it wasn't an issue in education where I was that women and men were paid the same, depending on the position they held. But I know for sure that in so many sectors that is not the case. And not only is it not the case for not getting a pay equivalence, but also pension rights, say perhaps maternity leave. There are all kinds of issues. It's not just a case of equal pay for women.
In the recent financial crisis, men have been the ones that have always taken the bigger risks. Do you think that the severity of the problem would have been lessened if there'd been more women in controlling roles, maybe banks or whatever? What do you think? Do you think, Mark?
I would like to think that it would have been better. Margaret Thatcher, I think, proves the exception towards that. Many people regarded her as being a sort of more masculine in the role of a politician than many of her cabinet and colleagues. However, in this idealistic world, I would like to think that things would have been better managed and there would have been more risk aversion had more women had executive roles.
But now banks and companies are actually looking at this in the 2020 hindsight. They're thinking along those lines now, aren't they?
Absolutely. We're given to understand that in the post-recession recovery that banks, financial institutions, all of those that are now going to be subject to more scrutiny, are reconsidering their recruitment and given a commitment to recruiting more women. Now, you can take that as a Pyrrhic victory in that more women may be now involved and employed in more senior positions, or it may be that those positions are simply not going to be given that venture, that risk-taking opportunity anymore, and therefore women have been allowed to take on those roles. It depends how we measure that.
But it's a matter of physical strength as well. We're not built the same as a man. So is the case of equality in the workplace, for example, can we do the same role as a fireman? Or would a woman be more suited to doing childcare? Is that a situation of strength as well, physical strength?
Of course, technology in the emergency services and in the military sector has allowed so many more women to take on more frontline extreme positions, merely because technology has allowed the overcoming of the challenge of physical strength and size.
I think absolutely. One of the jobs I've been doing lately is television program on Eurosport, a motorsport program, and motorsport is traditionally dominated by men. My boss at Renault, who commissioned the program, is a woman, and executes the role brilliantly, I have to say. But also, I'm noticing.
But will she be changing wheels?
No, well, I'm noticing in the pits as well, there are female mechanics now moving in as well, and female drivers as well, competing alongside men in the same races as men as well. So
Which
although
doesn't normally happen.
no, exactly, but although there is, you know, an inevitable physical difference as well, I think more and more where women are proving themselves capable, the opportunity to do that is becoming more and more common.
I think so. I think we need to focus on the word opportunity more than equality. Old Margaret Thatcher saying, if your only opportunity is to be equal, it's not opportunity. And I think the opportunity is now for women to go into driving, although, Helen Nice, as we wrote about in the articles,
she was there in the 1930s.
She was there in the 1930s. But they're becoming more prevalent for sure, and that's what's making the difference.
Well, can I go across the group and ask Mark that? It's really interesting about the example of women in motorsport at the moment. Are they there because of their because of technology has actually allowed to a certain degree the need for strength has been removed, as in changing the hydraulic wheel, whatever. We know that technology exists.
There are still a lot more women there as bonnet dollies, whatever they call them as well, than there are in the pits and as drivers. But as far as the women who are working in the pits as mechanics and who are also competing, which are even less so than the actual mechanics, they're there because it's something that they really, really want to do. Perhaps they didn't have the opportunity to do before.
But what is the last male bastion that women have to confront, do you think? We've been into space, motor racing we've just talked about. What's the last we've got to get to, where if we're accepted in our own right?
I suppose that the last one would be frontline fighting in the army, really. The women have working much closer to the front line in military roles, not just in care roles. But I think frontline fighting seems to be the last bastion.
Yeah, and it's that, I think that the thing that connects the 2 points here is it's the mindset to have the robustness, the emotional, along with the physical robustness, to work in that team that is predominantly
psychological robustness to do that.
Right, we've talked about the workplace, we've talked about the salaries. Now we come home. What's happening at the home? What's expected now? Is there equal footing there in the home place after work?
I think home life for groups of women, for groups of people in society, has definitely changed. I think if you're in a professional category of people, you have a lot of the domestic drudgery taken care of, and that's always been the case if you've been a moneyed group of people. I think for the average 9 to 5 working family, I think it's still a very complex tussle of difficult negotiations, shall we say, about whose responsibility for that.
So.
But without doubt, it's changing.
Is an old place litmus test of who cleans the loo in your house
I think
still applicable?
I think it's still a good litmus test.
I think biology will
so.
always play kind of a big part in equality. I think in what we can do, what men are better at doing, and what women are better at doing. Even though you are outnumbered, Mark, I think we found a common ground and a meeting of minds. And maybe it's simple just to start with respect for who we are. If we can do the job well,
we can
a great
complement
place.
each other.
We can indeed. And of course, if you want to be part of the Riviera Woman, anybody can be part of the Riviera Woman. Go to the website www.therivieраwoman.com. Thank you once again to Julia, Wendy, Mark. Thank you for being our first male on the Riviera Woman. And my name is Anna Phil. Thank you.